Hello everyone, it's JC here with another video for you. Today we're gonna have a different kind of video. It's a little bit personal because I would like to share something very important that happened to me. And some people have been asking what actually happened to my head, as you can see here. I'm doing this video now because I wasn't ready to talk about it, but now that I know more about it, so I decided to share this with you in this video. First of all, what is going on here is a kind of scar because I just had a surgery and now it is a healing, so it still looks a little bit gross. The dark thing that you see here around it will eventually disappear, but I believe that the scar will always be there. This actually happened because I had a surgery about 2 weeks ago on the 31st of August. They removed the skin cancer from my head. It was around January this year when I noticed something on my forehead, the right side of my forehead. It was a very tiny dot, but it was kind of a reddish and very sensitive. Sometimes when I had to remove my makeup, if I cleaned it a little bit hard, it would hurt and sometimes it would bleed. And it would take a couple of days to dry out, and I would put some ointments, for instance, on top of it, and just to make sure that it would heal. But after a couple of days, it would stop bleeding, but it would never go away. So I started getting a little bit upset and curious about what the hell is going on there. Why isn't this thing going away? So at the beginning of July, I finally decided to go visit my doctor. He thought it was a little bit strange, so he decided to take a little sample and send it to the laboratorium because he wanted to know what it was. It took 2 weeks for the results to come back, and he called me and told me that he didn't have very good news because he found out that what I had on my forehead was actually skin cancer. There are different types of skin cancer. There is the very dangerous one, which is the melanoma, and there is the simplest one, which is the basal cell. Mine was actually in between. It was not the melanoma, it was not the basal cell, it was right in between. I still don't remember the name, it was kind of complicated, but it's the kind of cancer that can actually spread to other organs if you don't remove it. Of course, I got extremely scared. I had moments that I had to cry because I didn't know what was going on. I was afraid of dying because, I mean, when you hear the C word, you imagine all sorts of things. And especially because last year I lost my best friend to cancer. His cancer was actually much worse because it was lung cancer and it was very advanced. But from the moment he found out, I stayed with him until the day he died. And it took me like almost a year to kind of get used to the idea that he was gone. And suddenly I hear from my doctor that I also have the C thing, you know? So obviously, all I had to do was just think bad thoughts about what was going to happen to me. So after the results came back, the doctor said that I would have to have a surgery as soon as possible. So he called the hospital himself and made an appointment with me. He was amazing. He was so supportive. I think a couple of days later, I was sent to the hospital, which is a specialized hospital here for cancer patients. And I became a client of the hospital, which was a very crazy thing thinking about it. But anyway, I just had to open a profile in a hospital for the first time. They also ran other tests like my lymph nodes because they wanted to make sure that nothing was there. Also, my lungs were tested and everything came back clean, which was a relief. So they were going to focus on here. And in order to remove the cancer, they would actually have to cut a little bit bigger because they wanted to make sure that the area around it was not affected. So the operation took place on the 31st of August. They treated me very well. I mean, they were so amazing. Everyone in the hospital, so supportive. My friends were there with me. So I actually didn't feel so alone. The cut was quite big, so they had to remove skin graft from my underarm. So I also have a scar here. So they took a little piece from here, to put here, and this is why it looks like this. After the surgery, I had this sponge pressing against the wound because according to the doctor, was supposed to be there for a couple of days just to make sure that the skin would be in place. So I actually shot this short video while in the hospital. So here I am in the recovery room. As you can see, here is the operation. So they removed a piece, and they also had to get a little piece here in order to cover this part. So now hopefully everything will be all right. And yeah, now it's just a question of keep controlling once in a while to see that it's not come back. So yeah. So as you could see, that was quite gross, and I was very scared when I looked at the mirror. But the doctor came back and said that everything went well, and the only thing they needed to do now was just to send that piece that they took from my head to the laboratorium to make sure that the area around it was not affected. 5 days after the surgery, I went back to the hospital and they removed the sponge. So it looked like this, as you can see on the picture. Was a little bit gross, but according to the doctor, technically speaking, the surgery went well and it looked very good. I know it looks very strange, also scary, but I was happy that at least it was gone. I also shot a little video after that. So this is now what it looks like, as you can see. It still looks a little bit gross, but the doctor says that now it's just a matter of healing. The doctor, she says that it's going to get better in time. I will have a scar, but yeah, it's supposed to get better. So now on September 13, I have to go back, and they will give me the final results because they want to analyze the piece that they removed, and they want to make sure that there's nothing left. After they removed the sponge, so it took about 2 weeks for the results to come back from the laboratory. And actually 2 days ago, I went back to the hospital for the final results, and fortunately, I'm very happy to say that according to the doctor, they couldn't find anything in the area around it, which means that the cancer is gone. So I was very relieved. And the fact that I will get a scar on my head, I mean, I don't mind so much. As long as I'm clean, I am happy. So now what I have to do is go back to the hospital every 3 to 4 months for a checkup because they want to make sure that I'm okay. So I guess that for the next 2 years, I will always have this moment where I will always be a little tense, a little bit stressed out before the results come back to me. But at this moment, I am very relieved. The last few months have been quite hard, but my friends and my colleagues at work, they were extremely supportive, so I never felt alone. So what I learned from this painful experience is that I think we should never take for granted when we think that something is not right with our body. I mean, if you notice something in your body that is not normal, let's say that, just go to the doctor because you never know. I mean, I was very happy to go to the doctor in time because if I would just let it go, it might be worse because you never know how these things are. So if you ever feel like something is not right with you, after 1 or 2 weeks, if that problem continues, go to the doctor. Make sure that you know what is going on with your body because if you find it in time, you might be all right. And unfortunately, some people will just let it go because they think, oh, it's just a little spot. It's fine. I mean, it's nothing. No, it's not. This is very serious. We're talking about cancer here, and you should never play with your health. According to the doctor, it's going well. It's healing well, but it still looks a little bit strange. I am supposed to protect it from the sun, so whenever I go out, if it's sunny, I will kind of wear a little hat. just to make sure that I cover it. But when I'm indoors, I don't really mind showing off my scar because actually I'm very happy that everything turned out well. If you feel like sharing this video with your friends, go ahead, because I think it's always good to make sure that people don't take things for granted. I was very scared. There were moments that I even thought that I was going to die. But I mean, I don't wish this on my worst enemy. It's a very stressful experience that I had to go through, but I'm glad that everything turned out fine. I know this video was not very cheerful, but sometimes we have to sit down and talk seriously, and this is one of those talks. Thank you so much for watching and have a fabulous day. Bye!